Hello there, my name's Brandon and I make pictures out of tiny squares. And today I'm taking a look at AI generated artwork. Now you've probably seen this before, but the way it works is that you can type a prompt word or phrase into the program and it'll spit out a computer generated image using that prompt, presumably the result of having been trained by studying all sorts of existing images across the internet. I've been playing around with the website Craiyon for this, and it's usually best to be specific in your choice of prompt words. But being a pixel artist, I wanted to see just how this would interpret the medium of pixel art in general. So I gave it a very generic prompt to generate cute pixel art. Now just a warning ahead of time, the results here venture into unsettling territory, so prepare yourselves accordingly. Here's the result. Alright, so there's a lot to unpack here, both aesthetically and psychologically. But obviously the AI seems to get the gist of what pixel art's about. But we've got some chibi-style character sprites here. I guess kind of a few cute animals and things, albeit with very depressing expressions. So what I'm going to do is remake each of the sprites here in a more classic pixel art styling, and just see what we can tease out of that as far as the designs go. First, we have to figure out what resolution these designs should be, though. And we can see a few points of reference to pixel scaling throughout, like maybe that's a single pixel right there. Maybe this one on the eye would be like a cluster of 5 pixels or something. And then there's a few segments of like 2 or 3 pixels and things like that in the outlines. But the individual pixel sizes here from these examples are not consistent. So I did my best to count things out. And for the first character here, I approximated that a grid of 21 by 29 pixels would be a reasonable template for this design. And that sizing is also consistent with the sort of scale that I might use to design a small sprite anyway. So to get going, I've set up my grid and I'm just doing my best to draw the outline first, and kind of translating that as close as possible to the way that it appears in the generated image, while still having to force it into this pixel perfect sizing. And by the way, I guess it is actually sort of impressive that the AI was able to generate an outline sprite at all. That's at least kind of this common enough style of sprite design, so it's sort of cool to see that that came through here. From there, I colored the sprite using a small handful of tones that were picked from the original image. I wanted to recreate the image using a simplified color palette like this, rather than trying to do like the patchy painted look. But the result of doing this kind of translation is a bit underwhelming because it sort of waters down, I guess, some of the intrigue, if you want to call it, that the painterly AI style had. So we lose some of that special depth that all those tones were bringing to the table. One of the ways that I tried to reintroduce that quality is by continuing to add more colors into my design, including colored line work for the outline. And then beyond that, I tried to do some blending as well. So I would kind of do this in rounds, continuing to introduce more colors and transition steps between them, and sort of pulling out more detail as a result. Toward the end, I also started to assert a bit more of my own design ideas into the styling, like a more interesting way to interpret the costuming and making the stance less rigid. But in the end, it was a nice kind of warm-up collaboration between myself and the AI. Next up, I tried to remake this design, which looks very much like it's a dog trying to be a dog or something. And probably of the whole set, it was actually the one that was closest to being some kind of recognizable design. So again, I'm following the steps as before of first trying to recreate what I see, and then taking that into my own direction and kind of polishing it. The thing that was interesting about this entire exercise was that it was unexpectedly freeing in a way. Of course, you know, there's that surface level element to it where you're just like, oh, look how weird and creepy these are. Let's, see what they would look like if they were redrawn properly or whatever. But the other thing is that it's sneakily this interesting way to find a bit of inspiration or just to let your mind wander. All the subtle angles and contours that arise from the AI's rough interpretation of pixel art, and even the color splotches and stuff that we see throughout. It's kind of like just seeing shapes and faces in the clouds. So it's kind of a nice creative exercise just to take some of this nonsense and try to extract something tangible from it, This little blobby blue one, for example, I really had no idea how to get this one going. I figured that the legs look like a mechanical walker sort of design. So I had that idea sorted out, but then the rest of it was just a lot of experimentation trying to find something that would pair with that. I ended up doing this little creature in a mechanized chair, something I guess along the lines of like MODOK or Craiyon, I suppose. But really, maybe that's just one option in perhaps many possibilities of ways to interpret a design so abstract as this one. All right, and I put together a little time-lapse montage for the remaining 6 designs. So let's run that footage and see how the rest turned out. Here we go. All right, and here's everyone together for the final comparison. I'm kind of equal parts satisfied in the translation and also feeling that I've made them even creepier in a way by kind of realizing actual features out of their abstractness. But either way, keep an eye out for my new children's book, Artemis Red and the Intelligent Fever Dream, coming out this fall. But there are some fun ones in here. I like the hamster ball. I like the kid in the cardboard box that kind of looks like Stewie in this sort of Lord of the Flies type situation. So I hope you weren't too creeped out by any of that. But we'll go ahead and close out with some CRT time and just see how they look in that context. So thank you for watching, and take care and keep it square.